What happened was Kirk Cousins had the Vikings over a contractual barrel. Final year of his contract, $35 million salary, fully guaranteed, $45.166 million cap charge. I reported during the Super Bowl pregame that Cousins had no inclination at the time to redo his deal. He wanted to examine some other factors, but that it was a positive that Kevin O'Connell was the head coach. Now, as we're getting closer and closer to the start of the league year, the Vikings were in dire cap straits. This new deal that is just a one-year extension through 2023, it increases his compensation this year to $40 million. It decreases his cap charge down to $31 million and change, 31.25 from 45.16. So they get some real cap relief. They kick the can, the lame duck can, by 1 year, and will probably be doing this again a year from now if Kirk Cousins plays well in 2022. But this at least gives the Vikings some protection against the possibility that Cousins will play really well and he waltzes to the open market in early next year. And, you know, the Vikings got a glimpse of what it's like this year for veteran quarterbacks, and somebody probably would have overpaid him next year if he had been available. Think about if he was available completely unrestricted right now. The teams that would be lining up to try to get him if they didn't have to take on an immediate $35 million cap charge, if they knew they were getting multiple years of a commitment, and if they weren't giving up whatever the Vikings would have wanted in trade. One of these other teams would have been going after him. So the Vikings have avoided that happening next year. They keep him for at least 2 years. They can figure it out beyond that. He gets a chance to work with Kevin O'Connell. And, you know, the Vikings get a chance to continue to be mediocre, in my opinion. And I know it's not all on the quarterback, but it has a lot to do with the quarterback. Let's frickin' go pretty much sums it up.
Well, he's not the quarterback. He's not the kind of quarterback, I think what you're saying, that can make a mediocre team a playoff team. Or, you know, a borderline playoff team. Oh, wait, the quarterback's so great. We look at him as a Super Bowl team because he's that, right? I mean, that's what great quarterbacks do. And that's what I've always argued with Aaron Rodgers. There's been years where I'd go, I mean, they're no better than a wild card team in Green Bay, but we put them in the Super Bowl conversation because of the quarterback. No, you don't get that with Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is really good. He is really good. We know that. We do. You know, a superstar? No. You know, the thing that looks weird is, yes, going to be one of the highest paid quarterbacks and not one of the top 10 quarterbacks in football. You know, definitely not for me. You know, really, he's in the top half of the league, yes, but, you know, it's somewhere between 10 and 16. That's the way I would look at it. So, of course, that's going to add, you know, more pressure on the situation because, again, that's part of Kirk Cousins' issue altogether. He's been a great businessman. You make that type of money. People expect results, guaranteed contracts, all of that. But I think what the Minnesota Vikings and Kevin O'Connell are telling you is kind of like what you're saying. There ain't that, you know, we don't have any other great options out there. The grass isn't always greener on the other side. This guy does know my system, and we got a lot of problems on this roster. Kirk Cousins is towards the bottom as far as the problems we got and things we got to figure out. And I think they're basically telling you, hey, they're okay. We're going with Kirk Cousins the next 2 years, and Kevin O'Connell wants to get his offense off on the right foot, and he'll try to evaluate the quarterback situation from there, and they'll figure out a plan, you know, for 3 years from now what they want to do next at quarterback.
The book on Kirk Cousins is very well established, in my view, from the people that I know, the people that I've spoken to. The guy is very good at running the play that's called. When the play that's called begins to fall apart,
yeah, there's no chance.
He can't do what Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Justin Herbert, Josh Allen can do. Extend the play with his legs, either running vertically, running horizontally. It seems like he's gotten a little bit better at knowing when to bail out of the pocket, and maybe that's it. Maybe he hasn't become physically more adept at running away from pressure. He just bails out more quickly and tries to make something happen. It's almost kind of like what you see Baker Mayfield does. Like, Baker Mayfield's got that ability to begin to run away from pressure, but there's a clock that ticks very loudly and very quickly once he does. He doesn't have the physical skills to continue that the way that some of the best quarterbacks do. Cousins he's as Kevin O'Connell said, very accurate passer, but he's not the all-around athlete that's going to move around and throw on the fly and extend plays and wow you that way. And not a great leader. Not a great leader. It's not a coincidence that Stephon Diggs tweeted his way out of town the same day that Kirk Cousins got his last contract. But, when they hired Kevin O'Connell, they kind of halfway made their bed with Kirk Cousins.
Yeah,
it was just a question of getting Cousins to make the other half of the bed and give them cap relief and give them certainty beyond this year. I don't think it was good for anybody for him to go into this season as the final year of his contract. And they've come this far with the guy. I guess that's it. They've come this far with the guy. They need to see where it goes from here. And even though, and look, let's not understate the possibility, Chris, that it was never a good match between him and Mike Zimmer. It was just never a good fit, never a good match. Because I've heard Sean McVay rave about Kirk Cousins. You know how Kyle Shanahan feels about Kirk Cousins. Here comes a guy who is more from the we love Kirk Cousins and he can do great things camp than Zimmer was. So maybe it's as simple as having a coach who meshes better with Cousins than Zimmer did. Maybe they never should have signed Cousins in the first place in Minnesota. Maybe that was the mistake. But now that they have him and he's got the huge salary obligation, they're trying to make chicken salad.
Yeah, I mean, they are, I think. And also it's been good play. I mean, like you said earlier, there's show me better options they got out there than Kirk Cousins. I know there's quarterbacks that are better, but they're not an option for the Vikings. And I think to your point, Mike, and you raise a there's always been questions about how much Mike Zimmer really wanted Kirk Cousins up in Minnesota. That's always been questioned. There's no doubt about that. And then I do think there's a fact of, defensive coach, he runs the team a different way, sees the game a little bit through different lenses than a guy like McVay, Shanahan, O'Connell, who are going to have an appreciation maybe for a quarterback who can be a little bit more surgical with the system, within the system. If they just listen to me and what I say as the coach and play designer and play caller, man, we'll be in a good spot. And that's where Kirk Cousins is. But he's got to have that guy who's smart enough to put him in those positions all the time. And that is McVay and Shanahan. We'll see if O'Connell is that. But again, I don't think it's always going to look that way with less than or below average offensive coordinators, nor do I think defensive coordinators who are head coaches can necessarily appreciate that. This is a guy that he does a lot of good things, but to your point, yes, he doesn't do the special things. And because of the contract situation, he welcomes, criticism. I mean, what is he, Mike? I mean, he's definitely one of the top five. He's the top five highest paid quarterback in football with average salary right now. You look at it that way. And then you go, all right, you talked about the pocket passing, right? That's an issue. Well, Brady's a better pocket passer. Brady's bigger, stronger arm, just plays better. He can make more explosive plays with his arm. Stafford's another guy that I would say is like that, but the same thing. Just got an explosive arm that can make throws Kirk Cousins goes. Then you go to the rest of the guys, and they're like what you talk about. You got Justin Herbert, Aaron Rodgers, Dak Prescott, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray, Derek Carr, Matt Ryan, Ryan Tannehill. I'm probably going to take. I'm going to take all those people over Kirk Cousins. Ryan Tannehill may be debatable. I'm probably still going to take Ryan Tannehill. So where does that leave him? Somewhere around 14 or 15, and you're paying him to be the fifth highest paid quarterback in football. That doesn't match up. I think that's where it'll ruffle people's feathers a little bit.
When teams hire defensive coordinators now to be head coaches and they have young quarterbacks or really good quarterbacks, one of my concerns is that the team's going to do so well that the offensive coordinator who works with that great quarterback becomes a head coaching candidate somewhere else, and you've constantly got to be hiring a new offensive coordinator because your guy's getting hired away. Under Zimmer, who arrived in Minnesota in 2014, you had Norv Turner. He gets pushed out. Pat Shurmur, who 2017's his way into a head coaching job that he never should have gotten with the Giants. Then it's John DeFilippo, who was a disaster because he and Zimmer didn't see eye to eye. Maybe DeFilippo would have been fine, but he didn't mesh with Zimmer. He gets run out the door in the 2018 season. Kirk Cousins' first year with the team. Then it's Kevin Stefanski, who stabilizes it late in the year, does well enough in 2019 to become the head coach of the Browns. Then it's Gary Kubiak, who retires after 1 year. Then it's Clint Kubiak. I mean, it's constant change and constant turmoil and constant just
that's hard.
Anything other than the kind of certainty and continuity that makes a good team a good team. And Cousins has had to struggle through that. And look, he's capable of doing great things as long as the play goes perfectly. The challenge for Kevin O'Connell, make as many plays go perfectly as possible and have a practical escape plan for when the play doesn't go as planned. And because for now, the escape plan basically is just, hit the deck. And maybe that is the escape plan. Maybe the challenge is for Kevin O'Connell as the offensive guru of the team to come up with plays that will be able to be run as called, as structured.
Yeah, right.
And call them at the right time against the right defenses. So it's not all Cousins. Somebody's calling those plays. Somebody's putting him in the spot where the play that's called falls apart. Maybe it was a bad play. Maybe it shouldn't have been used. So there's still hope for Cousins.
Right. You said it last week, Mike. You said it right last week. I think that was last week. Maybe it was 2 weeks ago. Didn't we say? You said if Kirk Cousins was on the 49ers, I think we both believe they have one Super Bowl championship, maybe two. Maybe they won it again this past year. There's a very real possibility. But, to your point is what you're saying there is, you put him on a team with a system and a coach that really knows how to design plays. He's got the smarts and the mentality to execute it just as taught. And that's where he's really good. It's just that, if option 1 and option 2 aren't open, and now we got to make a great throw off an awkward platform or a sidearm throw or pressure's bearing down on us, negative Ghost Rider. That's not where he's going to thrive. He needs that team and that system to accentuate what he is as a player. And to your point, I don't know if he's necessarily been given all those tools the last few years in Minnesota with some of the offenses he's been involved in.
And I remember making that point in the context of the fact that Indianapolis would better suit him right now because you need a good offensive line, you need a good defense, you need more around him than what the Vikings have had. But maybe the coaching will be all the difference. And there was some mild chatter about the Vikings possibly moving on from Kirk Cousins and then making a move for Deshaun Watson. You can scratch the Vikings off the Deshaun Watson list.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.